All right, we're gonna have a crash course in financial aid tonight. I'm gonna give you some general information up front, and then we're gonna get to the FAFSA, which I know that's what everybody is stressed about to a certain extent. But I do wanna bring some other things to your attention before we get started. Like what types of financial aid are available. There's scholarships, there's grants, work study, loans. So those are some of the things that you need to be looking for when your student starts to school. What types of scholarships? There's academic scholarship. Our admissions office handles all those at Faulkner. Athletic scholarship, varsity, junior varsity, team manager, all things like that with athletic departments. And most of this is geared toward Faulkner, but most schools have basically the same information. Departmental scholarships like music, band, business, that's something your student will need to be talking to the admissions office since you're gonna be freshmen going in. They can lead you to where you need to be to talk to those people about those scholarships. Another thing I want to bring up to you is outside scholarships. There are a lot of outside scholarships that your student needs to be looking at and for while they're making their plans to go to school. Church's Chicken has a scholarship. I mean, simple things like that. Different organizations offer scholarships to your students. So that's something they really need to be looking at. And I'll tell you this little story. You say, well, they're hard to find. Well, we had a student came in as a freshman. Her mother didn't want her to come to Alabama because they live in Georgia, and they have the Hope Scholarship. So she told her she had to figure out how to pay for it if she wanted to come to Alabama. Well, that child did. We had to tell her to stop applying for scholarships. She had so many outside scholarships we couldn't take anymore. So they're out there, you just have to look for them. When she actually finished with her 4-year degree, she had a credit balance coming back to her off of all these scholarships that she used to go toward her master's. So they're out there, you just have to look for them. A little more information on scholarships. Remember, they do not need to have to be paid back. There are some guidelines for maintaining them. Some are need-based, but they're out there, you just have to look for them, okay? Grants. This is called more or less gift aid. Pell Grant is the big one, and we'll get to the FAFSA in a moment, and that's what the big thing with the FAFSA is, okay? But then also from the federal government, we have what is called SEOG money, which is a Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. That's why we call it SEOG. The state of Alabama has a small grant for private schools, for private universities. So, and all you have to do there is furnish 2 proofs that you've been a resident of the state of Alabama for the last year. Last year it was $850, I think, a semester. I have seen it as high as $1,600, so we never know until everybody gets their information turned in and everything. But that's an easy one if your child is looking at going to a private school. Work study. That is another way for your student to earn money while they're in school. Of course, the FAFSA has to be done for that. They can use those earnings to apply to their account and pay their bill, or they can take that money and do whatever they need to do with it. I had a student come in today and he said, now, you told me I had work study, and I said, yes. He said, well, now, do I get that money up front? I said, no, honey, welcome to the real world. You've got to earn this money. You will turn in a timesheet, you'll get paid the first of the month. That's your money. You can do whatever you need to do with it. I think a lot of students come in with expectations of some things and they're not quite what they think. But I say welcome to adulthood is basically what it amounts to. One thing I need to tell you about, which I am not pushing this, but it's an option, are student loans. Everybody knows there's a lot of talk going about student loan forgiveness and all that that's up in the air now. That's still up in the air. No decision has actually been made on any of that, but this is just the basics right now of what we're going to do. Your student is eligible for a student loan. As a freshman, they can borrow $5,500 for the year. Half of that for the fall, half of it for spring. That money can either be subsidized or unsubsidized based on the results of the FAFSA. Subsidized means the government's gonna pay the interest on that for them while they're in school. Unsubbed, the interest would be accruing in the student's name. Again, you determine the amount by the results of the FAFSA. There's a thing called Parent Plus loans. This is a loan that's in the parent's name. The parent takes this loan out. There is a credit check done on the Parent Plus loan where there's not one done for the student loan. There's alternative loans. These are private lenders like Discover, Sallie Mae, and things like that that offer these loans to the student. Anybody have any questions? You're making me nervous. And do remember that loans have to be paid back. The student thinks, okay, I got this loan for this year. Well, it was paying this bill, so why not have to pay it back over here? They don't quite understand that. So, you know, it's a conversation that we try to have with them in the financial aid office to make them aware they do have to pay loans back. Like I said, a freshman can borrow $5,500. Once they become a sophomore, it goes to $6,500. Juniors and seniors can borrow $7,500. Again, that's for the year. Okay? All right, now we're going to come to the fun part. Y'all, excuse me just a minute. We're going to talk about this FAFSA thing. I printed a handout for you, and if you'll notice, on it says a draft, do not submit it, okay? This is actually what you would be doing on the FAFSA. And the reason I printed this out and brought it to you is exactly what you will see when you go online. So if you use this and fill this out, then when you're ready to go online, you've got the information right there. So it's going to make it a whole lot easier, I hope. It's got a lot of instructions. Normally we don't hand these out like this, but I'm thinking, you know, there are times when it gets really confusing, especially if you're online trying to figure out what to do. You're going to use your 2021 tax returns on these. Okay, and that would be for the student and the parent, all right? So I just want you to notate that you need to use the 21 taxes. A couple of years ago, they changed it to go prior what we used to were doing the previous year. Well, now that you can do the FAFSA in October, you haven't even done taxes for 22. So that did help us out by then going to prior years. But first of all, the first thing I want you to do when you get ready to do the FAFSA is that you have to apply for an FSA ID user name and password for you and the student. Okay? You have to apply for an FSA, Federal Student Aid, user name and password. For you and the student.
Write it somewhere where you won't forget it. I may know that from personal experience.
Yes, good point, Ms. Judy. Because that is going to be the way you complete the FAFSA. That is how you and your student are going to sign the FAFSA. If you opt to do student loans, that's how you're going to sign the master promissory note for you, and if you do the parent loan and for the student. So you need to keep that because you'll need it for all 4 years because FAFSA has to be redone every year. Okay?
And you do that at the FAFSA.gov website?
Studentaid.gov is going to be your best bet. I think if you log into FAFSA.gov, it's going to take you to the same website. But studentaid.gov, there is so much information there. And it will tell you if you go through the steps, you need to apply for both of these and to hang on to them and keep them and everything. And then, like we were talking a minute ago about all this loan forgiveness and everything, there is all kind of information about that. I don't think it's going to affect any of your students because, you know, it was loans that were taken out prior to the pandemic and stuff like that, which we still don't know all the guidelines on that. But let me tell you, when you're filling this FAFSA out, there are a lot of questions. But if you can fill this out, and when you sit down and you start working on the FAFSA online, you've got most of it. If you get to the tax part, for you and the student, If you don't have access to your tax information right in front of you, you can use what is called the FAFSA, the IRS data retrieval tool. Okay? If you click on that button for the IRS data retrieval tool, it will take you off of the FAFSA's website to the IRS's website, and it will ask you if you want to bring your information over, and it will automatically populate your tax information onto the FAFSA. Even if you have it on here and you want to double check, you can still do it, but it will bring it over for you, so in case you don't have access to you and your students' taxes. Okay. Once you do the FAFSA, there's what we call a cost of attendance. This is a financial aid cost of attendance. Has nothing to do with what the student accounts office would be charging you or anything. This is in the financial aid office. And the reason why we bring this up is because on the cost of attendance, if you do the FAFSA, you will get what's called an EFC, Expected Family Contribution. That's what the government says. Based on this, you should be able to pay towards your students' education. We all know that they don't take all of that into consideration. I mean, they don't look at car payments, utilities, or anything like that. They won't tell us what the formula is because they don't want us to figure it out. But we know, they say you can pay $10,000 where you know I can't do that because of my other monthly expenses. They don't look at all of that. They just have that formula they go by. The cost of attendance minus the EFC, which is expected family contribution, determines your financial aid need. That's what's going to determine if your loans will be subsidized money or unsubsidized money. It determines if you're eligible for work study, things like that, okay? We know that there is talk, and I've tried today to get a definite answer on this, and I think Ms. Sidney has also, that seniors that are graduating, it's mandatory. We know in the public schools that they have to complete the FAFSA for them to be eligible to graduate. But there is a waiver that you can sign. I'm still going to try and find out, let Ms. Sidney know for sure, if you don't want to do the FAFSA. Just remember, if you don't do the FAFSA, that takes away any kind of eligibility as far as any federal aid, which is student loans, work study, things like that. Let me bring up a few errors that are made on the FAFSA when you're doing that. Make sure you have names, dates of birth, and social security numbers correct. You wouldn't believe this year, I know we probably had 10 different students where they had put in one number wrong on social security number, and that messed up everything. We had to go back and start over and try and fix it. And once you do something with the federal government, it takes an act of Congress sometimes to get those things straightened out. Income earned by parents and step-parents, that's another issue you need to make sure. Inaccurate real estate or investment net worth, because you have to record all of that on here, okay? Divorced and remarried parental information, that always causes an issue. Normally the student completes the FAFSA using information with the parent that they live with, okay? So, say mom and dad are divorced, mom is remarried, you have to use income information from mom and stepdad. So you just need to make sure you have all of that figured out, okay, when you're putting your information in. All right, I know I talk fast, but I had to because I have so many students some days, and so any questions? Y'all come on, ask me some questions, do something.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I will. So, it's very, you said that public schools might have to fill it out. Do you recommend everybody fill it out?
I recommend everybody fill it out. It's not going to hurt anything. I mean, it's not obligating you to anything.
Well, here's the experience I had before was I filled it out and I didn't know how much to say I needed for tuition, because you fill this out before you ever register for college, and so you don't know what the tuition is gonna be. So I guessed at a number, right? A dollar amount. I guessed at a dollar amount, and then really without even knowing if I needed that, it seemed to just, it automatically turned into student loans. And like these checks were coming, and it did pay for her college, which is great, but I mean, I have to pay it back, so.
Right.
So I guess my question is, how would you suggest going about that?
Okay. The FAFSA is the application for all federal aid, which includes student loans, okay? And it will tell you once you finish that FAFSA that your student is eligible, say so much for Pell and so much for student loans. But you are not required to take out those student loans. That's a choice that the student and the parent need to make if they want to do parent or student loans. But this does not obligate you to take out loans,
I don't know
So-
what I did.
okay?
Okay, well,
But, you know, because even after you do this, you still have to do a master promissory note and entrance counseling.
Yeah.
So, you know, unless you needed the money for,
okay, I
Other
guess in my
purposes.
mind, I'm combining all that, okay.
yeah.
And you can send it back too.
Yes.
So like even if
Yes.
you did, you don't have to accept all of the amount that, right?
Right.
Or-
We
Yeah.
do a
Yeah.
award letter, a
Yes.
preliminary award letter, estimated award letter. It includes the max the student can borrow based on the information that we have at that point. The student has the right to say, no, I don't want this, or yes, I want it, you know, so. We put it on a lot of letters, but then they come back and say, no, we're not doing loans, so we automatically just take that off because they haven't done the paperwork for it either.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
can get tricky. I
It
understand what
can.
you're saying, and I think it can get kind of confusing, especially when you're going through all of that, to not know, you know,
True.
especially like I said the first time, and we, very similar, Jenna, we knew the difference then, and so with Jill, we turned down, you know, a lot of that. I think she only used it maybe 1 year when she did
I think
study
so,
abroad.
or, yeah.
Well,
you know.
that was gonna be my next
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
So if we don't fill out FAFSA at the, like now, for incoming freshmen,
Mhm.
can you do it at a later date if you decide to, or does it need to be done now?
You can do it at any time
Okay.
during the year.
Oh, during.
As long as, for a time from October the 1st till June of next year, June 30th of '23. I have to think of my years, they
So
go
it has to be
running.
before they start college?
No, you don't have to do it before they start college.
Oh.
But some schools do require that you have to do this for scholarships and things like that.
Okay,
But no, it is not a requirement that you have to do it before they start school, no.
okay.
One other thing, we try to go over this line by line before it ever happens, so that we don't have people taking out loans that don't want to take out loans.
Yeah,
So when you
Yes.
get that sheet in the mail that Miss Linda and her office sends out, then it's our job as an admissions counselor to call you and go over that with you line by line. Or, that's the way we feel about it. We feel like we need to do and have to do that,
Yes.
to make sure that you understand, you know, and you get exactly what you want, not what somebody else thinks you need. If that
that's
makes
good, because
sense.
our school didn't do that.
So we're completing this form, it goes to the government, the government sends information to you guys, and you guys communicate with us.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You can put up to 11 schools on there,
Okay.
Mhm.
okay?
But the
And
school
it just
will,
shows the eligibility.
That's all.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then if you enroll, in the school that you enroll in gets the finances.
okay.
But I think Linda said something that you do need to be aware of and make sure that you talk to your school. There are some schools that require this if you're going to get a scholarship or even like the grant, right? Do we not have to do it for the Alabama grant?
No.
No, not for that. There was something, maybe it was just scholarships that we have to do.
Work study and all that.
Okay,
You don't
maybe
do it,
that
you
was
don't
it.
get it.
Okay.
So you
But
just need
it-
to make sure you're checking with the school.
Yes, to see what their requirements are. But it doesn't hurt anything to do it. I mean, if you're not eligible for anything, you know, student loans would be your only other option, but of course, you don't have to take those. But you never know, because it's based on not just your adjusted gross income, but it's also based on how much of it, the money mom made, how much dad made, even the state affects it, state you live in affects it, so. But my suggestion is that you may want to go ahead and log into studentaid.gov. There's a lot of information. I will give the federal government credit this time. They have put a lot of stuff in the same website so you can see all of this information. And when you get ready to log in, like I said, make sure you sign up for your FSA ID username and password. So you be ready to start putting this information in. There's a lot of answers to some of the questions on what you're supposed to do. So, but it's my understanding that we are going to set up dates,
Yes.
and we will be available over at Faulkner. You can come in and, one of our computer labs, and we'll have some people in there that would be glad to help you put this information in. It doesn't take long. Some people, I think, get frustrated with it more than anything because there are a lot of questions. But according to them, in the next couple of years, this is supposed to be simplified. I may not be around to see that happen, but I'm waiting. Hopefully it will be. Because there are a lot of questions you wonder, why do they want to know that or this and stuff? So hopefully it won't be much longer. Okay, any other questions? Y'all making this too easy. Now, I know you got some questions.
While you think about that, this sheet that I gave you, the other sheet that I gave you, I gave it to you for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you go to a state school and you do not do the ACT, SAT, or CLT, you are not eligible for scholarships. Now, all those schools in our area are what we call test optional. You do not have to have an ACT score, SAT score, or CLT score to be admitted. You can be admitted by GPA, okay? What we have done is that if your student has not taken one of the tests and does not want to take it, we award scholarships for GPA. A state school will not do that, okay? Also, I gave it to you because, just because there's, in a private school setting, there's 5 steps to financial aid. The federal Alabama State grant is something that you can log on in mid-January and apply for. Because you live here, it's guaranteed money, it's yours, you just have to claim it. Wish everybody would do that. The additional resources, then the academic awards, and also one of the things you said, estimated cost of attendance for this past year is on here, October the 11th and 12th. We will determine if there's any change in this and any change in the scholarship amounts, and I will make sure that Sydney has the information when it is put out for that information. But this gives you some estimated cost of attendance, so when you do FAFSA, you will get another one of these sheets that will give you an estimated cost of attendance that can help you with that form. Any questions about anything that you see on this sheet? This is my baby. I'm letting Linda do the hard stuff.
Let me just say this though. I know for most of you, this is a new experience. There's going to be a lot of questions. That's what your financial aid counselors are there for. I mean, you should be able to go in and sit in any school with a financial aid counselor, and they will help you. I know in my office they will. Most of that's me, but that's okay. Unless Mike comes over and then I put him to work. But make sure you ask the questions that you're not sure about. Some people won't ask questions because they think, well, that's stupid. But it's not. No question is stupid in my opinion. And that's not a word that I like to use, but that's what I get told a lot of days. Well, we didn't want to ask because of that. But no, you need to ask the questions. If any concern, whatever, you need to find out what's going on. You need to make sure you understand what's going on. When they come through at our school and come through what we call college bound, the freshmen come in, and those days are set aside strictly for the freshmen to come in, get classes put in, they go through the financial aid process, they sign payment agreements and everything. That's when, if you don't understand something, if you've received an award letter, like our students, you need to make sure that you understand or pick up the phone and call. Now, we're available. Ms. Julie has my phone number. Mike, I'm sure they have yours. We will be glad to help you in any way we can, whether you're coming to Faulkner or not. Just like we're going to offer
Absolutely.
to come, help fill out the FAFSAs and everything. Doesn't mean you have to be coming to Faulkner. We are willing just to, come in and sit down and help you and make sure you feel comfortable with everything that you've done on the FAFSA.
Another
Okay?
thing, do any of y'all qualify for VA benefits? We do have an office also, if you know somebody that does, that you can come in and sit down with them and walk through that process. It's pretty detailed, but we have somebody that is trained to help go through and get you pointed in the right direction, whether it's for federal VA benefits or whether it's for the state of Alabama VA benefits.
You have to be retired or just served?
Served. If you have, he can tell you and get some information for you that will tell you what you qualify for. It's, most of it now is online, but he has a packet that he can give you, sort of like what Linda's put together here. It's very detailed, okay? And there's 3 different packages. If you're federal, there's 31, 33, and 35, and they also all pay different things, okay? And you qualify for a certain package, and then it will tell you what you qualify for money-wise. One of them is full tuition, one is living, one is something else. I don't remember what it covers. And then the state of Alabama has some benefits for you. But again, I don't ever get to see that, but we can get you to Garrett, who can sit down and go over it detail with you and fix it so that you would get the information at your home that you need to know what you qualify. That's a pretty big thing. But if you know up front, you know, if you lay it out on the table, then you can prepare for that, to know what that is.
Or you said time frame, are you regarding time served, or are you talking about?
No, ma'am, some of the benefits only last 18 months, some of them last 48 months.
Okay.
And so to find out what package you are, then it tells you how many months
Okay.
of veterans benefits that you have.
All right.
School months, let me back that up.
That does take, sometimes like 30 to 60 days to come
Yes.
back then. So if you want to do it, the sooner the better.
Yeah, if y'all can, I'm gonna leave some cards up here. You can call me and I can get you set up with Garrett to come by. If that's something you wanna do, be glad to help with that. Again, you don't have to come to Faulkner, but the right thing to do is help you if you need it. So that's what we wanna try to do.
Be more than happy to it any way we can. Anybody else?
And if you
Y'all are
have-
too easy.
I have another
Come on.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we think we need student loans, do y'all have a recommendation as to whether it's better to do these federal loans or to do like a private lender?
I would say do your federal loans first, because if they're subsidized money, you're not paying any interest on that, and you're using that money for free. I would use alternative loans as the last resort. So I think their interest rate's a little bit higher, but,
Okay.
so I would do the
That's what I
federal
was wondering.
loans first, yes, ma'am.
And federal could be subsidized or unsubsidized?
Correct. It's gonna depend on the results of that FAFSA. Okay.
But if you also have any questions about the admissions process for college period, let us know so that we can try to help you look through that process. It's not, it shouldn't be hard. You know, there's ways that we can help, you know, and show you some of the things. I've learned from mistakes. I've had 3, so I've had a little bit of learning. I've learned, I have a learning disability sometimes, but I learned that one pretty quick. You had a question?
I was just gonna ask, are there, grants or scholarships or anything for adopted children?
If they're adopted, it's just like you. I mean, it's just yours.
Well,
You know?
that's what I figured,
But
but I
yes.
thought might ask.
There was one scholarship for red-headed women.
Well, yeah, see, I know there are a
Okay.
lot of strange ones. so-
That's crazy.
There you
I
go.
want to dye my hair and, you know, grow it long.
That's the same, you can
But
dye your
Pam,
hair,
I
wear
do
a dress.
think in your situation, there may be some money out there, because you have a little bit of a different adoption situation. Now, I'm not sure that I know necessarily where to tell you where to go, but I can try to, you know, because it's different than somebody, like I was adopted at birth, so
Right.
that's a little bit different than the situation that you guys kind of came into with that. So I do think there may be actually some stuff
Yeah, I can look at it.
for you guys.
Maybe I'll-
I adopted one at 19.
Yeah.
Okay. But some companies, she couldn't be mine. I had her guardianship first.
Mhm.
Okay. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't even get health insurance. But once we adopted her, then the student loans and all those things were easy because of the adoption.
Right.
And we had to show that, you know,
Mhm.
we had to prove that, and that was the easy part,
Mhm.
you know. But yes, but they're for adopted children once they're adopted.
Oh, I know they're mine.
It's wide open.
Yeah, I got that.
You know, you can apply for any scholarship that's offered, and there may be some out there. I would type in my computer, scholarships for adopted children, because it's probably scary to death what comes up. But it's available. You know, there are things available, but yes,
Okay.
that would be something that could be considered.
All right. Thanks.
I
Any
do
other
ask,
questions? Oh,
I do ask if you would like to sign up and come over and let us help you with your FAFSA anytime, make sure that you have applied for your FSA ID username and passwords.